Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a wonderful day so far. So according to recent projections, the debt ceiling is expected to be reached at some point between July through September. Now right now the Treasury Secretary is using extraordinary measures to continue paying all the bills, but once July or September rolls around, that may no longer be possible. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing that possibility, why it may or may not happen, and the likelihood of the debt ceiling not being raised. Now, before I dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so earlier this month, the House Freedom Caucus did list out their conditions in order to agree to raise the debt ceiling. These include ending the Biden administration's $400 billion student loan forgiveness program, rescinding unspent COVID relief funds, clawing back funding for the IRS in climate change prevention in the Inflation Reduction Act, instituting greater work requirements on welfare programs, requiring congressional sign-off on all major federal regulations before they can go into effect, finding every dollar spent by Democrats that can be reclaimed for the American taxpayers. So their thing here basically is that they want to make it so our federal debt does not continue ballooning out of control. They want to lower the amount of government spending so we can sort of finally balance our budget. So those are basically the demands from the House Freedom Caucus in order to agree to raise the debt ceiling. Now, if you think that President Biden or other Democrats are going to agree with any or possibly all those demands, then I might just also have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you as well. So unless the House Freedom Caucus backs down from all those demands, or maybe other Republicans reach some sort of an agreement with the other Democrats behind their backs, then we might just be finding ourselves in a bit of a pickle. This is because, again, the Congressional Budget Office projects that if the debt limit remains unchanged, the government's ability to borrow using extraordinary measures will be exhausted between July and September 2023. That is, in the fourth quarter of the current fiscal year. The projected exhaustion date is uncertain because the timing and amount of revenue collections and outlays over the intervening months could differ from CBO's projections. In particular, income tax receipts in April could be more or less than CBO estimates. If those receipts fell short of estimated amounts, for example, if capital gains realizations in 2022 were smaller, or if U.S. income growth slowed by more in early calendar year 2023 than CBO projected, the extraordinary measures could be exhausted sooner and the Treasury could run out of funds before July. So what does all this mean? What would the implications be if Congress is unable to raise the debt ceiling? Well, according to Business Insider, Americans could lose $20,000 in retirement savings, and private student loan borrowers could see their payments surge if Republicans don't raise the debt ceiling, a new report says. So according to the report, a default would cause a $20,000 loss to Americans' retirement savings, and along with that, small business loans could increase by $44 a month. A new homeowner could see their monthly mortgage payment increase by $150 a month, and private student loan borrowers could experience a $23 increase to their monthly payments due to interest rates that would surge. They also point out that currently the Treasury is able to shuffle around spending to afford its current obligations, like getting Social Security checks to Americans, but once they're no longer able to do that later on this summer, what happens then? Thankfully, a 1996 law provides an escape clause from the debt limit that allows the Treasury Department to pay Social Security benefits along with Medicare payments, even if there is a delay in raising the debt ceiling. It allows for the Social Security and Medicare trust funds to be drawn down to keep those benefits flowing until the debt limit is raised, while prohibiting those funds from being used to pay for any other government programs. Unfortunately, though, using that law today to keep those benefits flowing without a debt limit increase would not be easy. So since 1997, under an administrative policy change, the Social Security Administration no longer pays out all benefits at the beginning of each month. Instead, they are paid out based on each beneficiary's date of birth. As a result, even if the Treasury draws down Social Security trust funds to free up cash to make those benefit payments, the staggered benefit payment schedule throughout each month and an inability to prioritize payments means some of the benefits might not end up getting paid. Without proficiency at prioritizing some payments over others, the 1996 escape clause to draw down Social Security trust funds could have the unintended effect of temporarily funding other government programs until the Social Security trust funds were exhausted or the debt limit was increased. Also, Treasury officials have often said the agency lacks the technical capability to prioritize payments that come due in such a way to ensure that Social Security benefits, debt service, or any other obligations would take precedence. Earlier this year, Yellen told the Wall Street Journal that, quote, Treasury systems have all been built to pay all of our bills when they're due and on time, and not to prioritize one form of spending over another. So although there is a law in place right now to make sure that the Social Security Trust Fund is drawn down only to pay out Social Security payments, there is sort of that loophole there because Social Security payments are now staggered where they're not all just on the first of the month. There's one on the third, and then there's one on the second, third, and fourth Wednesday of each and every month, where now it's possible that the Social Security Trust Fund could actually be used to pay off other government debts. And if the trust fund is used to pay off other government debts, it's possible that the Social Security Trust Fund could be drawn down, completely depleted, and no longer able to pay out benefits. Now, do I personally think that we're going to be running into a situation where the debt ceiling is not reached and we end up in the situation where maybe Social Security payments are either canceled or possibly even delayed? Personally, I think probably at the end of the day, they're going to get something done. There's always a lot of drama going on in Washington, D.C. If we've been paying attention over the last, however many years, they always wait to the very last second to get something done. It's always just a bunch of political drama going on in DC. So I think probably at the very last second, maybe the last week or the last days, they will probably end up getting something done. I say probably because there's no guarantee, but I do think there's going to be a lot of political pressure on them to get something done, and Republicans and Democrats will come together at the end of the day. One of the sides is probably going to fold, and they're probably going to give in to some of the demands, but we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Now, one bill, if passed, would obviously be very helpful. It is a bipartisan one. So on Angus King's website, it says King colleagues introduced bipartisan bill to avoid government shutdowns by keeping Congress on the job until agreements are reached. So U.S. Senator Angus King has introduced bipartisan legislation that would prevent government shutdowns and compel Congress to stay in the D.C. metro area until their work to sustain government operations is complete. The Prevent Government Shutdowns Act of 2023 requires all members of Congress to continue working on Capitol Hill until government funding bills are completed. This would prevent harmful shutdowns, ensuring critical services and programs continue for Maine people, and protect federal workers and their families from financial stress while Congress completes the annual appropriation process. Upon a lapse in government funding, the bill would also implement an automatic continuing resolution on rolling 14-day periods based on the most current spending levels enacted in the previous fiscal year. This would prevent a shutdown and continue critical services and operations. During the covered period of an automated CR, restrictions would be put in place to prevent Congress from adjourning and prohibit taxpayer-funded travel for members of Congress and their staff. So not only would this bill force lawmakers to stay in Washington and not be able to go home, this would be greatly helpful because obviously they don't want to stay in Washington. They need to go back home to their families. So eventually they would sort of, definitely reach some sort of an agreement because, their personal life is a lot more important than what they do in DC. Obviously, we've seen a lot of that. And also, it would actually automatically increase the debt ceiling on rolling 14-day periods. So if they were able to do that, then obviously continuing to pay out benefits such as Social Security would no longer be an issue. So again, even though I don't think this is going to be an issue where Social Security payments are going to be delayed or canceled, it's always important to plan for the worst case scenario. So make sure, if possible, to put some savings to the side just in case they aren't able to pay out Social Security payments for maybe 1 or 2 months. Again, I don't think it's going to be something that happens, but I do think that preparation is key and we should always plan for the worst case scenario. But that's all the news that we have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.